you think the biggest issue was tonight?
Just a lack of purpose and energy right from the start. Competitive fire, connection, a competitive edge. We didn't have it.
What do you think caused that lack of purpose and lack of energy?
I don't know.
Tough nights for Jonathan, Moses, and Brandon. Just what did you see from them?
The game didn't go their way, but there has to be some fire in the belly to get out of a tough night. You know, it's tough as a young player when things aren't going your way and game's not going your way. It's easy to, kind of get down, and you can't do that in this league. You have to fight and to compete every second, and it didn't feel like we did that tonight.
If you're a true fan of the Golden State Warriors, losing a game or having a rough stretch shouldn't have you screaming for trades and negatively criticizing the entire team. These things happen. A true fan is going to be there through the ups and downs, night in and night out, especially being a fan of this Warriors team. It's definitely a grind. Watching your Hall of Fame superstars go up in age and seeing your young guys struggle to make an impact is simply one of the hallmarks of change. Eventually, your superstar Hall of Famers in Steph Curry and Draymond Green will have to retire. They've given more than enough to this team, and if they hit a rough patch, let's not overreact. Considering Steph's recent illness keeping him out of games, it's understandable that the Warriors would struggle considering the team philosophy. If anything, this further cements Steph's legacy. A lot of basketball conversations talk about the Warriors as the greatest team assembled. However, this proves that these assembled players wouldn't have peaked as high as they did without playing next to Curry, and despite what was seen as the talent surrounding him, it was he who elevated every last one of them. If you don't believe me, check out what these players have done for themselves outside of Steph's orbit. Now obviously this isn't intended to reduce the greatness of any of these players, but it goes to show you that Curry is still far above and beyond. Now that we've contextualized, this team is not only led by one of the greatest players of all time, almost every play they have is drawn up for him specifically. While you can have some shooters step in like Moses Moody, the lack of opportunity, confidence, inexperience, and as a result, inconsistency can make it very hard to replicate this on a nightly basis. That is to say, the growing pains are a part of the game, so expect the Warriors to bounce back. They started a good 5-game stretch with 4 wins split by 1 loss. They then went on a bad 5-game stretch with 4 losses split by 1 win, and ending with a loss against the Denver Nuggets. The team is back to 500 with a reset record. With a reset mindset, they can get right back to winning and playing Warriors basketball. Starting with the Denver Nuggets, let's see how they can get that done. Now get ready. The Warriors' last game against the Nuggets was a very strange game. It seemed like everything that could go wrong, in fact, did. While the Warriors weren't expecting to win without Curry, they weren't expecting to lose the way they did. Despite all the issues, there are 1 or 2 things that could have turned everything around completely. So let's make this simple. The game is predicated on 2 things, offense and defense. If you're deficient in either one, your team is going to struggle. Additionally, we're dealing with actual human beings here, so one feeds into the other. Great defense often leads to good offense, and great offense can spark energy on defense. It's no surprise then that a team missing one or the other tends to fall apart. Cue the obvious missing Steph Curry. Offense clearly falls off a cliff without Steph, and considering what happened last year, the coaching staff and front office have been aware of that. So they went and got Jimmy, a two-way player that generates his own offense and competes as well as anyone else on defense. That should fix the problem, right? Technically it should. We've even seen Steve Kerr comment on running a different type of offense with Jimmy. So what happened when the Warriors ran their offense through Jimmy against the Nuggets? Well, that's just it. While they did this for a few possessions, a lot of the possessions ran through pods. Now don't take this opportunity to slander the Warriors' young player. It's not really his true position. He's a bit of a tweener and is best playing off ball, not as a creator, but as a spot-up 2 guard crashing the board on offense. He's a great off-ball defender, but since he does a lot of those things that don't show up in the box score and he's not a lockdown defender at POA, he looks awful when his shots don't fall. The problem is, the Warriors don't really have the time it would take for Pods to become a primary facilitator. A pure point guard that knows how to facilitate is a dire need for the second unit. In one of Pat Spencer's best stretches, the Warriors came all the way back from down a double-digit lead to almost a tie with the Nuggets, all from him setting up the offense and allowing plays to develop instead of forcing. So now you're asking, wait, I thought we were running the offense through Jimmy. The truth is, it was run through Jimmy, Pods, and then Pat Spencer. Jimmy's tactical offense was workable, however, without a knockdown shooter to play off, this was difficult. Yes, they had Moses Moody, but Moody was also over 8 by the end of the night. Some of his looks were wide open, others were contested, but overall, this was nothing new. His shots simply weren't falling. The only player that reliably scored from downtown was Draymond Green, a player the Nuggets would happily let beat them from three-point range. By the end of the night, he was the team's leading scorer. When Draymond is the leading scorer for the Warriors, this means one thing: that the Warriors played exactly like their opponents wanted. No surprise there that they won. Now ask yourself, imagine if the Warriors had a true backup point guard. How would things have gone differently?
The path of Hurricane Melissa went directly through my hometown when it made landfall. While I've lived in the US for most of my life, I spent the first 15 years in this very small town that I still visit often. It has now been left devastated and reduced to rubble. Many are dead, and those who aren't are struggling to get aid and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. My aunt's home was badly damaged, is currently without a roof, and everything inside the house was destroyed, including furniture, goods, food, and other supplies. She's currently without clothes, shoes, food. My goal is to help rebuild what she's lost and, if possible, help to rebuild and restore some semblance of normalcy to life in this tiny, close-knit community. I can only do that with your help, so I'm asking for you guys to support this disaster relief in any way you can. Anything helps. I've started a GoFundMe with all proceeds going directly to the aid of people in need. If you want to help, please click on the link below in the description, or you can scan the barcode on your screen using the camera on your phone.
At this point, we've raised over $3,000. Thank you so much for your continued support. Spencer was able to find guys in rhythm, and once they had a flow offensively, they went on that run. But that didn't sustain as Murray hit back-to-back threes to stop the Warriors' run. A couple of months ago, I made this video on Taron Armstrong, whom the Warriors made a weak offer to in the offseason. I expected that the Warriors would sign him to fill the obvious need at backup point guard since Spencer really wasn't good enough to fill the role and an offer wasn't made to him. But they let him walk, and now they have this glaring hole at that position. A point guard would remedy a lot of the issues and catch guys in rhythm, giving them better looks from three-point range. Without the size to dominate in the paint, this team needs their shot to fall at a good clip. This obviously played into their performance at the other end of the court as well. Now, technically, they weren't that bad defensively to start the game. It wasn't until Murray hit those two tough shots from three without Jokic that the Warriors' defense really started to take a dive. Before that point, however, they had a few good defensive possessions and the Nuggets really had to work for their baskets. On this defensive possession, we see JK funnel Murray to the baseline. Murray goes for the reverse lay, but is then blocked by Kuminga. On another possession, we see Draymond on a switch with Pods, Jokic being the assignment. Now, normally you'd think that's a terrible idea, but somehow this worked. Here's what happened. It starts with Pods chasing Cam Johnson. As soon as Cam screens Dre, he sends Pods to guard Jokic. So Draymond saw the play before it developed, and instead of fighting over a screen while the Joker goes off, the switch was seamless. But it doesn't stop there. He's got his hands all over this possession. Watch how he walks Pods and the entire defense through guarding on this possession. He doesn't want Pods on an island with Jokic, so he motions for the defense to pull in and create a zone buffer. Now you're thinking, look at Jamal Murray wide open at the top. Isn't this a risky play? Murray is as prolific a three-point shooter as you could have in this league before you get to Steph Curry. Maybe. Obviously, there must be something else going on. If you assume that, you'd be right. But let's see how this plays out first. Jokic had the opportunity but doesn't pass it to Murray. He continues to try taking Pods to the rack and gets 3 defenders on him, and he's forced to make a kick-out pass to the corner shooter. The closeout is too quick and they don't get the shot off. The play is effectively broken. A scramble ensues and the Nuggets get a shot clock violation. It worked out great, but you're wondering, why give Jokic such a clear look to a known three-point shooter? Truth is, Jokic is shooting 64% from the field on the season and only 33% from deep. That means he's shooting 78% on twos. That's almost a guaranteed basket. Jamal Murray before the Warriors game was shooting 30% on threes. Draymond was willing to bet that Jokic doesn't pass it to Murray, and if he does, there's a very low chance it goes in. Less than half the point per possession of a Jokic field goal attempt inside the arc anyway. Draymond wins that possession regardless of the outcome. Put simply, we don't want Jokic getting twos, force him to kick out, and let the Nuggets beat us shooting threes, which explains the other problem we had on defense, going under screens. Both Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody went under screens while being the point of attack defenders. Even Pods did this. This tells me it was a coaching decision to go under screens with the Nuggets. These aren't players going rogue and defending poorly. Their moves seemed somewhat mechanical, and the idea behind it was to force the Nuggets, not really a prolific three-point shooting team up to that point, to beat them from beyond the arc. The Warriors just didn't respect their shooters. This is despite Aaron Gordon going 10 of 11 in the last outing. Now, there were some examples of players just not showing enough fight, enough fire, and enough energy, but the lack of engagement could be a number of reasons. My personal take on that is it comes from coaching. Players are being put into specific positions in order to play a certain way, and this not only takes away from what they're capable of doing, it also hampers the team while limiting their ceiling. Pods being forced to be a facilitating point guard when that's not his game makes him look terrible, and JK being taken from being an offensive-minded player can make him indecisive in trying to mesh his facilitating with getting his own bucket. This isn't a bad thing entirely, as it's experience for him to get better as the season progresses and he learns from it, but it leads to what we saw in the last game. The same applies for Pods. Both players are undersized for the role they get put into by Kerr, who now sees the game only through the lens of the championship core, and this puts a strain on the current crop of players who have to fit that mold instead of playing and developing their own dynamic on the floor. As long as they get the minutes, they can figure out how to play. But until then, the team will have to hang a couple L's and play next game up. But let me know what you guys think. What should the Warriors do in terms of a true backup point guard? How concerned are you about the Warriors making the playoffs or even making a run for the championship? Post your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Till next time, swish.